Hello and welcome to the Adventure Habits podcast with me, David Overton from Splash Maps. This is the podcast where we talk to some of the best adventurers in the world. And I'm very excited about the two gents I'm about to introduce you to. And what we try and do is we get out of them the adventurous habits that we can actually adopt into our daily lives. And in the next episode, or the one after that, we're actually going to do a synopsis of all of those great adventurers we've spoken to so far and see if there's some commonality, if there's like a top five of the top five that we'd bring forward. So I'm contributing to this great academic study of adventurers. We've got two of the most amazing double Guinness record holders that you're ever likely to meet. Well, certainly the most unusual of them anyway. And I'm just going to get them to introduce themselves, and I'm sure what they've done will come out in the course of our conversation. Matt and Reese, say hi.
Hi, David.
Hi, David. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Enjoying the kind of spring-like feel to this afternoon. And just as a brief explanation, I first met Matt and Reese when they were doing training for a particularly challenging challenge, which got them the first of their Guinness World Records, which was to ride around the world on a moped and sidecar, which was the most inappropriate mode of transport, as I recall. So Matt and Reese, do you just want to tell us a little bit about as seen from the sidecar and then what you're doing now?
Sure thing. Okay, yeah. Well, I guess these days we're known as the Sidecar guys, which has been a weird thing for us because, like you said, David, it really started with this project which was called As Seen from the Sidecar, which was our first big thing where we went around the world on a scooter with a sidecar. So we got the world record for the longest ever journey by scooter in sidecar, which was 54,000 kilometers. And we became the first people to ever circumnavigate the globe on that mode of transport. So we went from London to Cape Town, up the Americas, and back across Russia in midwinter. So that was like our big sort of coming of age trip where we did an adventure. And then kind of that was supposed to be it for us, really. We were just happy to kind of do that one trip and go back to our normal lives. And then, COVID came and the lockdown happened, and we did the Armchair Adventure Festival. And around the same time, which was a festival like in our living rooms of adventure travel and people telling about their stories about the trip around the world and their trips and things they'd done. And that blew up. We had like 40,000 people watch this sort of virtual adventure festival, which was crazy for us. Yeah, it was huge. And it kind of just snowballed us into this weird kind of carved out job of being the sidecar guys, which involves sort of hosting the Armchair Adventure Festival, which is now an in-person real festival, and then also doing adventures on sidecars and running a sidecar experience centre where you can come and learn to ride sidecars in the northeast of England, or if you can already ride them, just ride them. So
I just love the way that description just snowballs from being probably. I'm going to suggest an extra Guinness World Record that you might go for here, because it's actually one of the most specific Guinness World Records, and you might have a record for that. Actually, what is the most specific world record you can have? So this is circumnavigating the world, listeners, by moped and sidecar. And you chose that, as I recall, because it's a bit like Edmund Hillary and why did you climb Everest? Because it's there, because it's not easy, because it's hard, and you really have. You've made something hard, and then you stuck something harder into the spokes of that idea, and it's particularly incidentally, I'm just going to plug your book if I may, but isn't it called Our Ridiculous Adventure or
Our Ridiculous World Trip?
Our Ridiculous
World Trip.
But it really is. If you ever want to read an adventure travelogue, that is the one to read, because there are moments in that you can't imagine happening in any other circumstance. So you kind of carved out this niche within niche within niches and then run with it. And that's produced all this great stuff. And the adventure, we should talk about the Armchair Adventure kind of a little bit later on in this, because I don't want to steal the thunder from your round the world trip. But just remind me, what was the actual purpose of that trip around the world? Because there are a couple of things.
Yeah, so I guess there was a few purposes really. The one that we sort of like, if we ever talk about it now or anything like that, so I guess the two that we sort of hang our hats on is like, so first it was a charity challenge, and so we decided we wanted to do something that was like, like the whole thing was going to be a charity challenge and sort of test ourselves that way really. So and we wanted to look at an issue that was, because we were going to so many countries, we wanted something that was an issue in all the countries I went to, and then we actually found out it was an issue in every country on earth, which is basically modern slavery. So we decided to raise basically awareness for modern slavery as an issue because it's fairly secretive. So we thought we can bring a bit of attention to it. That'd be cool. And then as we sort of digged into it, we found out at the time, this is going back 6-7 years, but something like 40.2 million people enslaved globally, which is 3 times more than the transatlantic slave trade. So it was a pretty big thing, and it was really cool. When we were on the trip, as a result, going to certain countries, it gave us purpose to go and visit charities on the way and sort of have a chat to them about that. And it was actually a good way to even just understand like general like communities and stuff of some of the countries we were in. So that was like number one reason
for you as well, right?
Say again, sorry.
It opened a few doors for you as well, sort of one friends as you went.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There was 100%. Yeah, I guess we'll save it, that sort of stuff. Yeah, but then the second reason we, I guess the main reason why we chose a scooter and sidecar and why we decided such an inconvenient mode of transport is it was all about is the world a friendly place or is it not, basically. And at the time there was a lot of like news stories that we didn't really agree with about people outside of the UK sort of creating a bit of a presence of like you should be scared of them and that sort of stuff. And we thought, well, I'm pretty sure they're just good eggs, really. They can't all be bad. So we'll go and find out, and we'll try and travel around the world in the most inconvenient way we can think of, and basically the intention of hopefully getting the help from people on the way. Or would they help? Would they not? And they did.
Yeah, they did.
And I think some of your best encounters that I enjoyed was, I mean, you decided, right? I would say controversially. I think, I don't know how much you thought about it, but you ended up riding this contraption across Siberia in the Siberian winter, and you really were in the hands of the friendliness and charity of the Russian people that you'd meet out there. And the stories are really quite heartwarming, aren't they? They I guess did you pick that up? The furthest you go into the wilderness and you get into the kind of outside the ordinary, the friendlier and the better people?
Well, I mean, not really. I think the thing is, it is that, but I think that's just the ones we talk about the most because they're the most shocking. But actually, I think you find pretty much everywhere you go, people are just people. Everyone's friendly kind of wherever you go. And then we always talk about Sudan or Siberia or something because it seems so distant and alien to us. And you're expecting people to be scary because that's what the press have told you. And then they're not. So you're shocked. But actually, people are just people kind of wherever you go. And we had people help us all over the world. I mean, from even in Germany to in Croatia to, Egypt, Sudan, all over the world, it was the same stories. We just focus on Siberia and places like that because they're the most shocking. That they're nice as well. Who'd believe it? People are nice there. So, but we did. You're right. We had amazing experiences, and the biggest thing was in Russia is because that was the point where we were most vulnerable because it was minus 40 or minus 45 outside, standing still, and then you've got the wind chill of being on a bike. So it was the abyss. It was tens of miles, and maybe not hundreds, but there's tens of miles of nothingness between villages and things. And we were on our own and scared and cold. So it was quite nice when there was bikers out on the side of the road waiting for us to take us in for the night and things like that. So it was really amazing.
And do you know, I read I read your book at the same time as I read Aspi Cherry-Garrard's book, The Worst Journey in the World, and that was him on Scott's mission to the Antarctic, where they actually went through an Antarctic trek for hundreds of miles in the middle of the Antarctic winter, and it was regularly minus 50, whatever. And I just could not believe how cold that could be. And I've just been to Boston. We were at minus 10, and I thought it doesn't get colder than this. And yet you could still see people walking around with bare hands and carrying iced coffees and things like that. It's just a different set of people living in a very different environment than what I'm used to.
Yeah. Well, the guy you're talking about trekking across Antarctica, I mean, he had it easy because he gets to move. Whereas when you're on a scooter and sidecar, you just sit there and get colder and colder. You don't get to move your muscles. So we always say the cyclists and the trekkers, they got an easy life. Try motorbiking, mate. That's hard work in the cold. You sit there and get colder.
It is fun. I mean, it's just a very different thing because it's literally like so much like good Arctic gear is built to keep you warm when you move. But if you're sat in a sidecar, you can't move. You're just sitting.
Yeah.
It's all, in many ways, it's all mental. The battle's all up there. Yeah.
Brilliant. So that was Guinness World Record number 1, and we'll get on to Guinness World Record number 2 here. I think might have to call this the Guinness World Record habit as a kind of change. But I mean, all of these things led on to the next thing, and so you then had, as you've mentioned, the armchair was an online festival, which was massively popular, 40,000 people coming to it. And then that kind of became the germ for what I now know and what we've sponsored for the last 3 years, I think, is the Armchair Adventure Festival that happens down in Plymouth or near Plymouth. Just tell us a little bit about that. And I think probably for our listeners, one of the most exciting things is that you actually have the potential to pay them to go and have an adventure as well.
Yeah, with the grant. Yeah.
That's where I'm going with that.
I was like, do we do that?
We do. Yeah, we do. So it all came out of lockdown as a virtual event. It went really well, and it was basically what that really was. People sat on a Zoom link, YouTube, watching people who are on a Zoom link talking about their adventures, and we kind of did before. Let's try and turn this into an in-person festival, and we did it at Mount Edgecombe Country Park down near Cornwall, just over the water from Cornwall. And we did that actually because we did some survival training there, before we went on our actual around the world trip. We knew it was an amazing venue, so when we decided to do an in-person event, we thought we better do it there. And then the festival sort of has grown arm and a leg since. And what it is, it's all about basically, we call it the UK's best celebration or adventure travel, and that's because it's got 2 or 3 stages with speakers who have they've been out there and done it, who have done amazing like big trips, expeditions, and that sort of stuff. This year, we've got some really cool people. We've got John Blushers now. He'll be back. He's got a different story every year. We've got Lise Wortley. She's going to be there. So she's a woman out. She does loads of amazing expeditions, like basically harking back to women adventurers from years gone by. So basically tries to replicate their adventures using the same sort of gear that they had, which is really cool. And we've also got Mitch Hutchcraft, who currently is attempting to, I think it's the longest ascent of Mount Everest in is it ultramarathon, is that right?
No, it's a triathlon. It's a hell of an ultramarathon.
It's
the world's longest ever.
He has to swim up part of.
So he's swimming up the mountain. No, so he's left from the UK.
Yeah,
he swam the Channel. He cycled to Nepal. And now he's walking up Everest.
He might have done some running. I don't know.
And he's done some running.
He's done so much stuff. By the way, it's like the longest summit. He's almost now just about to begin the actual climb of Everest. So he's almost there.
It's just so mad. But actually, that's just the sort of person you'd expect to meet.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they're just 3 people.
It's just another bloke at the festival.
And
everyone there's like that.
Yeah, and he's doing really well. It was actually quite cool, actually, because he messaged us and said, I'd love to come and talk. I came to your event a few years back and loved it. And this was before he was doing this amazing expedition, before he was sort of this really well-known adventurer sort of thing. He just came on.
You probably inspired him.
That's what I mean. Though, when you actually do the talks and stuff, and then we do a couple of open mic sessions where we get people to talk about their trips from the audience and things like that. And everyone's always got the most amazing stories that they've done these incredible trips and adventures and things. Yeah. And it's just a really lovely community of people who are like encouraging each other to go on these adventures and do the trips. And that's what the nicest thing that's sort of come out of it. And that has sort of led on to the
every level, doesn't it? You don't have to be someone who's already
No, yeah.
already bought all the kit, already headed off, I've already done Africa. I'm looking to do the rest of the world. It could be, anyone who's just looking to extend their adventure habits, if you
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And actually, we've just been to the Birmingham NEC for the National Outdoor Expo, where we've hosted a stand together in the past, and it's a real easy sell to just say to people, look, you like what we've got here with the maps. The thing that we can recommend is come to the Armchair Adventure Festival, because you will get inspiration there, and I think if people have taken that first step on the way to becoming more adventurous, it's their second step. Go to this
Yeah.
festival. It will be
Yeah, I
brilliant.
know what you mean. Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and
And then I'll talk about it, David, because you asked about it, the grant and the Get Out Do Stuff grant, because that kind of comes out of all that scene. It doesn't, like, your adventure doesn't have to be, the world's longest triathlon and going up Everest. It can be just what's adventurous to you. And that's where the sort of Get Out Do Stuff mantra comes from. And it came from a friend who lost his life to cancer, David Martin, and he he had this mantra before while he was fighting terminal cancer, and he was doing chemotherapy, and he was get out, do stuff on the sort of weeks of good in between his chemo sessions, and he did these amazing trips, and he set up this sort of campaign online to get people to get out, do stuff. So we've managed to carry on his message with this grant, where every year at the festival we all raise money together as a raffle and things like that, and then we use that money to fund people's adventures. So we don't quite pay you to go on adventures, but we can sort of pay for big chunks of your adventure. And there's usually, well, for the last 2 years, we've dished out just over $5,000 towards people's adventures in each year. And with no sign of it ending, really. So we've got lots of money in the account from people fundraising, and it's going to carry on for some years.
And you just name another festival that does that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
in my view,
inspire you and then pay you to go and do it as well. That's sort of the hope. Yeah.
So you're actually becoming your own kind of fertile ground for developing the adventurers of tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the speakers for the stages. So yeah.
And I tell you what, you can feel it there, and it's absolutely transgenerational as well. And we're so proud again to be sponsoring John Blashford Snell, or joint sponsoring Blashford Snell, to come to your event. And this year he's doing his Zaire talk. And I saw that at the Royal Geographical Society earlier this year. And of course, we made him the maps for it. So, what's not to like about it from that perspective? But it's, if you thought that the Darien Gap adventure last year was good, then you ain't seen nothing yet. This is this really is raw adventure. I'm not entirely sure what the head count was on this one, but it is, and he comes from last week's podcast. We had Dan Smith on the program, and he was one of the adventure training instructors from the military. Actually, the group that John Blashford Snell started up in 1967 or whatever it is. But obviously that since John's time, that adventure training has bred some great people. And I've met them at I've met more of them at your expo. So you're attracting all of those former military trainers and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, people must come along because John Blashford Snell, I mean, I've never seen anyone sell so many books at the end of a talk as I've seen him. Literally, the 2,000 people in the audience get up and then they stand in a queue that stretches the length of the field. So get there, see John on the, 25th, the weekend of the 25th of July?
Yeah, 24th to 27th
last weekend
of July.
Yeah. And you just have to go there, because actually you won't believe the story that he's going to come out with, and you won't believe how much you're going to want that book when it's over. And unfortunately, it came down to me to sell them on his behalf last time, and I was looking back at my revenues and thinking, we did really well that day, and then I realised, we had to pass half of that on to John.
Yeah.
So that was all great. So
Okay.
okay, so we've got the Get Out Do Stuff grant, which, you know, as soon as people get involved with the Armchair Adventure Festival, all the links will be below. I've just got a quick request to make of you, Matt and Reese, because we've got some great listeners here and there's such fertile ground for coming to the Armchair Adventure Festival. Could we offer them a discount?
Sure. Yeah. Why not? Yeah. I don't know, yeah. If anyone buys a ticket to the festival, if they enter the code SplashMaps, all in uppercase caps locks, guys, at checkout, you'll get 10% off. We'll set it up in a minute.
Wicked.
That's
Yeah.
what we're after. Thank you so much, chaps. Now,
No worries.
a lot of people are going to be listening to this because they follow it because it's kind of entrepreneurial as well, and people want to know how businesses get started. And I think it's easy for you guys to be humble about this, but are you not now the distributors for at least one? I think it's two motorbike brands and sidecar brands.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've kind of got your own place for testing out the
Yeah.
bikes, selling them, presumably. Tell us all about that.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you want to, it's a weird thing trying to be like a kind of professional adventurer, if you like, because there's a very fine line with being an adventurer and an entrepreneur, or at least trying to be self-employed. It all kind of comes as a package. And there's two kind of ways you can do with it. You can be an adventurer and go around the world by script and sidecar, and then talk about it on after dinner circuits or whatever, and make your money for your next trip, and then go and cross Antarctica in a sidecar, and then come back and do it again, and keep doing that forever. And that's an ace thing to do. Those people are awesome that do those kind of trips. It wasn't for us because we have to do it together, and I'm so sick of Reese that I couldn't go and do another big trip with
Absolutely,
Reese.
you'll get the reputation of being the Ant and Dec of the.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's a hard way to spend life. You're constantly bettering yourself or coming up with fresh new ideas for big trips and things. And so we didn't go down that route. But we kind of fall into the kind of sort of business side of things by the Armchair kind of came out, and we set it up as a business because COVID made it Reese redundant, and I got put on furlough. So it kind of came out of necessity a bit, and then we just kept running with it and taking opportunities. And as we did more, it grew our profile more, so we got more opportunities put our way, and it just kept going. And yeah, like you said, now we became brand ambassadors for Ural, who are a type of motorcycle and sidecar in the UK. So we run an experience centre in the Northeast. So we've got a sort of mini fleet of Urals, and we take people out around the countryside on those, and you can come as a rider or as a passenger and sort of just
And
explore.
these bikes aren't just like any kind of bike, haven't they been made so that anyone in the back streets of Kabul or something could weld the thing back together again if it
Yeah. The older ones were definitely. These ones, they still got a very similar look. They're a bit more, I don't know, trustworthy, reliable. Yeah.
They go
Less
anywhere.
need to go off
They
and
go
get
anywhere.
someone in the back streets of Kabul to fix it, right?
Yeah. Well, they originally built to fight the Nazis in the Second World War. So they were the Russians' answer to fighting the Nazis. They had a machine gun on the front. And then they carried on making them for 80 years in Siberia to plow fields and stuff. And farmers used them in Siberia for many years. And then they became like an adventure toy.
Yeah.
And they got 2-wheel drive. They kind of go anywhere, do anything. They go backwards. And they're really fun to play with. So that's what we do, really. We just take people around the countryside in them, go through streams and up many hills and stuff. And yeah,
and you've now got a second brand as well, haven't you? Or is that the Sidecar? There's a second brand of Sidecar.
Yeah, Sidecar, Watsonian Sidecars. Yeah, so they're the ones that are UK manufactured. And if anyone watched Harry Potter,
that's Harry Potter Sidecar.
Hagrid's Sidecar.
Yeah, Hagrid.
So I know my Harry Potter.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Or Wallace and Gromit.
You're going for that Hagrid look. That's
Yeah, so we quite often, to be honest, we get sort of slid into like this sort of idea that we're like motorcyclists. I don't think we are. We're more just, I don't know. The Sidecar was just like at the time it was like a mode. It was just a means to an end, really, with the original round the world trip. And then it just sort of when you call yourself the Sidecar guys, David, you end up in a in a very, like you said, particular niche.
Yeah.
That's hard to get out of.
Well, we like them, don't get us wrong.
Yeah.
We'll go in a car too. We're not strict on bikes.
No,
But,
yeah.
I've got to say, I've never seen someone dig within a niche so deep.
Coming from the guy that sells fabric maps.
You're burrowing a very thin tunnel here.
Yeah. No,
But
you're right. It is very, very niche, and we just keep going with it. And so much so that we're opening up a cafe next year that will have all kinds of sidecars there. But to be honest, it is kind of opening us up a little bit, because it's going to be called Wild North, and it's for all kinds of adventure travellers to come and learn and find out about the region we're in Northumberland. And there'll be lots of it. It's hoping to be the Armchair Adventure Festival in one location sort of every day. So there'll be speakers and talks and things there, and lots of information about the area and how to explore.
Okay, well that's really something to look forward to, and it kind of it segues quite nicely, having talked about those motorbikes and the sidecars, and you guys not being motorcyclists. I would say that you are, because your other Guinness World Record is very much about motorbiking. Tell us about that one.
Oh, we hold the record for the longest distance by motorcycle and sidecar in reverse. So we spent last October, 15 hours continuously reversing around an abandoned airfield in Northumberland for 107 miles. I think it was
107 miles. Yeah, non-stop, not even to go for a week. So there's a silly film online you can watch on our YouTube channel. Tells you about that one. But
if you ever want to know, can you get a pointless world record? Watch that.
That was about up there with the most pointless world record.
Terrific. I mean, it was compulsive viewing, and I kind of thought, I remember in my driving test doing the reverse round a corner, and I thought, really, you could probably go for the world record on that as well. The reverse round a corner.
The funny thing about it was really hard. It was like it's really quite hard to control them going backwards, and it required like a lot of attention,
because it has to be continuous,
because you can't stop. If you stop, you've lost.
Or if you roll forward a fraction or stall it,
done.
And you stop moving.
So we just had to keep going backwards. And
congratulations on that as well. So that's 2 Guinness World Records. Any ideas for a third?
Well, the second one's currently just a world record. It's pending.
It's pending Guinness's seal of approval. We did break the world record, but they take a long time to put the stamp on. Guinness do so. There's probably 100 men in white cloaks somewhere assessing our record for the next 2 or 3 years before they give us the certificate. But,
you got to be. I'm beginning to learn about this, because we had Dan Smith on the last episode that we did. He's about to paddle down the Yukon. He's doing the Hess River, and it's 550 kilometers and whatever. But you might know him from previously. He was the guy that paddled, he canoed, kayaked the length of Britain using the waterways, the canals and everything. And they refused him the Guinness record because there were too many permutations that you could take to the journey. And that therefore it would be too difficult for someone to say, oh, I did exactly the same thing, but I did it quicker.
Right.
And so, if you decided to go left at the Grand Union Canal instead of right, or whatever it was, they were saying, well, then the record wouldn't stand up. So it was, fingers crossed they won't have the same objections when it comes to reversing, because a bike stays in reverse, you stay on it, it does a certain number of miles.
If Guinness say no, I still know that I know deep down I've reversed for 107 miles.
A personal kudos. Maybe that's something we should all satisfy ourselves with more often. That could almost be seen as an adventure habit, which kind of brings me on to, I'm just checking through my so we talked about the book, and the Armchair Adventure Festival. You've painted a picture with words there. I think that's just to put my words in there. Beautiful sunshine, down on the south coast, spend your day on the boats with people like Conrad Humphreys, and then spend the evenings listening to like bizarre music with didgeridoo solos and things like that, and then and meet the most.
You sure know how to sell it. You sure know how to sell it, David.
This is why I'm not your marketing person, isn't it?
Yeah, so the bands actually are some of the best bands. We always like to write. The first festival we did, we thought we might do this once. We want to put like a proper party and book the best bands we can know of in the southwest.
Yeah.
Problem is that when the first one went well, you set a bar, and then so we had to keep replicating or improving the level of music. Yeah. So didgeridoo solos and that sort of stuff it's good solos.
Yeah, we're punching above the weight on quality of music compared to.
I can vouch for that. It definitely is a brilliant. Yeah. We get friends of ours to come and help on the stand, and one of them even booked up before I even booked my place. So that's it's not difficult to get people to come down and help on the Splash Map stand. That's for sure. So I mean, really looking forward to that. So 25th weekend of the 25th of July. That will be brilliant. Now I have to press you guys for your 5 adventure habits, and I guess kind of think of the sort of thing that would work in terms of people who've been inspired by you, by what you did, by kind of believing in your dream and going for it with all of your adventures, and perhaps the entrepreneurial side as well. Even though you might think you've drifted into it, there has to be something that means that you'd have the confidence, the ability to do those things. So anyway, I asked for habit number 1.
Okay. Well, I mean, habits are hard for us. I guess, I mean, I guess we've touched on a few different things, haven't we, when we've been chatting here about the stuff that's been made our adventures great. And I think that inconvenience has been completely key for us. If you can make your adventure inconvenient, then you'll probably have a proper adventure. And like with the scooter and sidecar, and with the reverse challenge, it was inconvenient, and it made it hard, and that's what made it fun. Like, all of the best parts of anything we've ever done have come out of the inconvenient.
Yeah, the good stories, the breakdowns, all that sort of stuff. So it's how you. Yeah.
So I wouldn't apply that to the entrepreneurial side of things. Don't make your business inconvenient. But if you want to go on an adventure in the modern world, it's quite hard sometimes to find new paths to tread. But if you can go on the same path in something inconvenient, I think you'll probably find a lot of fun in that. We'd certainly have. You meet different people. The breakdowns is where you meet people. Or going off on the different weird, like going across the Andes at 4,000 meters above sea level with a scooter and sidecar is a lot more interesting than going across it in a Land Rover, because you just stick the aircon on and go over and it's fun and easy. But actually having to push it up and feel the dirt under your feet is a different kind of trip. And so inconvenient would be make your adventure inconvenient.
I love that, because it kind of you've got one step deeper. Well, not one step deeper, but you've almost gone to the deliberate cause. That's the habit of, I think it was Dan Smith on the last podcast, who's talking about quadrant 2 or type 2 challenges, where you're deliberately putting yourself outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And here you can't help but be outside your comfort zone, because you've actually scuppered yourself in the first place to be outside your comfort zone. So I love that. That's a great habit. It hasn't come up yet, so fingers crossed. Let's see if it makes into the top 5 and when we do the summary.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. So give me another one. Second habit.
Well, a nice easy one. We're mode of transport, so we always had a habit of don't drive at night.
Okay.
That's my wife's mantra as well.
No, we had a guy before we left, and he said, "Do you want a bit of advice?" We were like, "Yeah." And he said, "Don't drive at night."
Yeah.
And he was from Cornwall as
well. Well founded.
Yeah.
So, but to be fair, when we have driven at night, it has also led to the best stories.
Yeah.
Because that's the times we've ran into hippos and bears and things like that. We probably haven't got time for those stories, so you'll have to read the book.
Yeah.
But yeah, we driving at night. That's cool. Good one from Reese. Nice bit of nice.
Well, I thought
tip.
they can't all be like
Yeah.
poignant.
Well,
You've got to have something
I
really
bet
basic.
you could probably find out. There's probably statistics that most car accidents happen at night. Or something.
Oh yeah, you don't want to drive at night. That's legit. Yeah, it's legit. I don't know if it's a habit, but I guess your habit is you're driving in the day.
Yeah.
Reese makes a habit of driving in the day.
Yeah.
So stick with that. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pleased with that. Well, you've had your 2. It's like the wishes with a genie. You only get 5, so you've got 3 left.
Yeah. Okay, 3 left.
Okay.
The one of the ones I would say, and it's obviously a bit cliche, but is just do it and take action to do it. I think I've probably come with everyone, but it's like that thing like Obama's famous piece of advice was you've got 2 answers, and probably the worst answer you can give is taking ages deciding which answer to take. Just pick a choice and do it rather than deliberating on it for ages.
Yeah.
And I think that you can apply that to the business side of things or to the adventure side of things. If you just book the flight or take the plunge, whatever it might be, you'll probably get to where you're going or get somewhere more interesting quicker.
Fantastic.
So,
I think that's a really good one. I can buy into that. I occasionally do that, but like everyone, we're all prone to procrastination. The trick is to spot when it's about to happen and then nip it in the bud, right?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Fantastic.
So just get on, do it.
Okay, so inconvenient. Don't drive at night. Just do it.
I'm trying to think like what to call it, but like maybe like keep calm. Right.
Yeah.
We all of our sort of situations where it got hairy or anything like that, it was all about the biggest thing was sort of like keeping ourselves cool, and then everyone else was cool with it too, if you know what I mean. So like, I don't know, we broke down in Ethiopia, and we broke down right in the middle of Timkat Festival, which is a big religious festival in Ethiopia, and all of the villages turn into like a carnival, and we didn't know we were driving into Ethiopia on that day, but we were. And we were driving through this one village, and there were hundreds of people out. And, you know, they were very excited to see us because we were tourists, but they were even more excited because we had this red scooter and sidecar, which they'd never seen before, ever. So it was like, what on earth is that thing?
To be honest,
then the clutch exploded in the middle of it. And we had this situation where we had loads of locals surrounding us, and then the police came out and they were whipping them back. And then when the police sort of moved around to the next part of the locals, they all came back into towards the bike. It was like this hokey cokey sort of situation where we were in the middle. It was quite intense, but it was made, I guess, less intense by us pretty much just being quite relaxed about the situation and not being like caught up in it. And like, there's a lot of like vulnerability to doing, kind of going back to the first point, I guess, but a lot of vulnerability to anything that's like adventure travel related or event related, and you kind of need to like almost like thrive in that and keep calm in it, because a situation becomes a proper situation when you let it become one. But if you're like relaxed about it, usually, in my experience, it usually ends up being okay.
Yeah, and it works with all of it. Like, and it was a good lesson for us. I think we kind of learned that in Ethiopia, having chatted to other people as well who had, you know, been in those situations, not acted calm, turned up to the guest house with a couple of black eyes, and you know, had really bad interactions with other people because they'd taken on other people's actions as aggression and then given aggression back. Whereas if you give back a smile to someone being aggressive, it largely just stops the situation getting worse and worse. So I think staying calm is true. And it's worked. That has also worked with the festival organising and things like that. I mean, we took a lot from doing the trip and high pressure situations like that to then doing our first festival and being in a state at the first festival and being calm. And
what we worked out, David, is that no matter what, come Monday, it'll be Monday.
It'll be Monday. Yeah.
So and that's not that profound, but
it is a little bit. Because then if you realise that on the Saturday, you can then be calm.
You know,
and stop and just go right.
Monday will be Monday.
Yeah.
Just the acceptance. It's going to come in again. It's going to come. I remember talking with Charlie Walker, actually, who I think he cycled 40,000 miles around the world, and you know, he took it a long way. And his stories of Ethiopia I've heard echoed by other cyclists that have gone through, and they definitely saw an angry side, and the
Yeah.
interesting thing, he did some research on why that happened, and apparently the Ethiopia is one of the only, I think it's the only country in Africa that's remained independent.
That's right.
And there was a point where it looked like it wasn't going to be when the Italians came in during the Second World War, but it didn't actually go. It didn't actually ever get administered by the Italians, but the Italians all turned up on bicycles, and so there's like this ingrained decades of
Oh, right.
hostility towards cyclists amongst the Italians. And
That's
who would have
great.
thought that Italian riding could get the backs up of a whole nation?
There you go.
That's really funny. Yeah, yeah, they do. The kids throw stones at any bike coming through, including motorcyclists. But it's a bit easier for us because we could just get out of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cyclists were turning up covered in cuts and bruises. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so you got your fifth one now. We've had Stay Calm, Just Do It was the one before that. What's your final one?
I reckon probably the most important one is to have a purpose for it all. You've got to always have a good why as to why you're doing it. And I think and you don't necessarily have to, like you can just go on a trip just because you want to go there. But if you've got a good why, it'll make it more interesting. We touched on it earlier about the modern slavery stuff and wanting to meet different people and things. And all the best stuff came out of that. Like we went to visit refugee camps and we went and chatted to different charities in different countries around the world, and it got us off the main path, and we got to speak to different people and learn about the culture a bit better. And so having a good why really helps, and it gives you a reason to do it again as well when it's a bit cliche, but when you're like a bit downtrodden about the whole thing, if you've got a good reason for why you want to do it.
It can be personal as well.
Yeah,
it can be a personal why.
Yeah.
And it can be and that there's one that brilliantly works its way into the business world as well, doesn't it? Nowadays,
exactly.
if you haven't got a purpose for your business, there's it's not going to
Exactly. That old people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it thing. So yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, and that's why we try and make everything we do in our business stuff about adventure travel, because that's what we care about and what we're interested in. And we genuinely think that adventure travel is really important, that more people should do it. And if we could get more people doing it, the world wouldn't be as crazy as it is. And we're in a world right now that everyone's shrinking into their selves. It's becoming more Trumpian and like populist and nationalistic. And I think that if we can just get people to go and experience other cultures and experience different places, we'll see it turn around. But that's really hard to do with $5,000 worth of funding from the Get or Do Stuff grant every year. But that's why we do it, because we think adventure travel is really important. Seriously, so yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that expensive either. We had Chris Howard on a previous episode, I think our second one. And the number of things that he's done with absolutely nothing in his pockets, and he's managed to walk around the coastline of Thailand, that sort of thing is it is quite extraordinary. But I mean, with adventure travel, you are forced into situations that do put you outside your comfort zone, and that's something that if you're going to thrive as a human being these days, you are going to have to contest with either that or or just kind of almost opt out. And opting in is a much more positive way of doing things. And I've got to say, guys, I absolutely love the habits that you come out with. So first of all, being inconvenient, which I think leads to all sorts of stuff. I think we sort of parked that one fairly strongly in the adventure category rather than the business category. Don't drive at night. I think that's a sort of thing that perhaps Jimmy Savile could have spent his time advising us on when he was doing his Clunk Click adverts as well. Just don't drive at night. That's when most people are going to be drunk, right? So I think that could have been a better epitaph for him, maybe. Then there's Just Do It. Now, I think you might have stolen that one from Nike, but I think you can have it just the same. And maybe they were onto something. Let's face it.
Who knows?
Keep calm and then have a good why. And I think that's a perfect thing. So, how can people find out more about going on your guided motorbike tours or your motorbike and sidecar tours up in Northumberland.
Give Reese a ring. What's your number? Just give him a ring.
It's on the website. Well, they can hop on sidecarexperience.co.uk.
Yeah.
Sidecarexperience.co.uk.
All the information will be on there, yeah.
But if you're interested in anything we've just talked about, if you go to thesidecarguys.com, that's kind of a little pointing page for all the things we do, so you can see about the festival.
And all your socials are the Sidecar Guys as well now, really, aren't they? So, and you're on most of them. So I think people will be able to get hold of you quite easily. And I mean, I'll just vouch for you both, because I always find you completely extraordinary people, and we love supporting the Armchair Adventure Festival in whatever way we can. And it's the highlight of the year for us. I mean, I don't want to belittle our trip to Boston or our trip to Birmingham this month, but they're quite hard work, and we get to meet the most extraordinary people when we're at the Armchair Adventure Festival. So please come along, get those tickets, use splash maps capitalized when you go onto the website for the Armchair Adventure Festival, and get the discount on your tickets now. So the next episode, I am planning to bring on board. He gets rarely seen. I don't know how often you guys have seen Ian, once or twice. But my business partner in this is Ian Holt, and he's kind of the brains behind the operation, does all the clever stuff of putting things together. And if we were the Pet Shop Boys, he'd be the guy in slight shade at the back. But he's coming forward to have a discussion with me on that episode, to see, well, just what are the top 5 of all those top 5s we've had so far. So we've got 30 so far. 5 from some fabulous adventures. Everyone's been a brilliant adventurer on this so far, and it's been so much fun finding out more about them and the things that they want to pass on to people. So tune in for that one. And we've got Kathy Reevy of Wild Mountain NI, and Kathy is a female mountain leader who's based in the Mourne Mountains, the beautiful Mourne Mountains, but also leads treks to Everest and various other locations around the world. So we're really looking forward to that one as well. But for now, Matt and Reese, is there anything else you want to say? One quick plug before we go? Buy the book, something.
Buy yourself a fabric map, hey mate. Yeah. Buy yourself a splash map. We've used it on our trip around the world. Very good maps. Yeah.
Hey, you were the inspiration behind our HarperCollins world map. So that's now one of our best sellers. And we blow it up so big. Each time we make it bigger, people say, "Can we have it bigger?"
Nice.
Thanks for your support on that, guys. Someone had to say it, didn't they? But
Cool.
Great.
Thanks for having on, David. It's been fun. Yeah, it's good to chat. Yeah.
Thank you for having you both here. Cheers for now.